Welcome to this podcast about professional business process modeling with Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft Visio. I am Volker Altenberg from Transware AG, the manufacturer of BPM-X and the solution provider of Microsoft tools-based BPM. Are you mapping or modeling? This somewhat provoking question has a serious background. Most organizations use Visio as a standard for the documentation of business processes and the depiction of related diagrams. Actually, Visio provides a large degree of freedom. For instance, a consistent usage of diagram types like workflows, org charts, application system landscapes, etc. is not enforced. In the same way, literally any shape from any stencil can be used in any drawing. In this sense, plain Visio is often regarded as a simple drawing or mapping tool. However, Visio can easily be made a real modeling tool. BPM-X provides a SharePoint-based repository and the BPM-X Designer add-in for Visio, which permits to describe the enterprise and business architecture with tailored modeling languages and frameworks. For real modeling, an object inventory is managed by architects. It offers object reusability for business analysts and contributors who use Visio as a modeling front-end. So Visio is used for the visual exploration and the modeling of process flows and the business architecture by reusing objects from the inventory. Let us have a look at how this is achieved in a real-life scenario. This is Microsoft Visio with the BPM-X Designer add-in. We can see a SharePoint demo project with a number of diagrams residing in a SharePoint document library. BPM-X Designer provides a structured view to the overall hierarchy, including all diagrams. Business analysts typically work in the so-called model repository branch of the project. Architects, however, deal with the object repository, which is called element library in BPM-X. Ideally, the object repository is located in a different SharePoint document library. Let us turn to the object repository. Such a repository typically contains master data like specific org units, roles, or application system shapes, which will be reused by the business analysts in process flows. Like high-end modeling tools, BPM-X Designer works with globally unique object identities and therefore is aware of object definitions and object copies. I would now like to add an object repository, which we call element library. As best practice, business analysts should just have read access to the object repository on the SharePoint side. Write access should only be granted to business architects. Once the repository is in place, we can look at the individual shapes contained in a sample diagram. There are org units like purchasing, and we have roles like manager purchasing or clerk purchasing. I'll now create a new process flow diagram. Reusing objects from the repository is very easy. Simply select the desired diagram, for instance org units and roles, and a dynamic stencil containing the object definitions is automatically added to the diagram. Dragging and dropping the according master shapes places them as object copies to the diagram. Object reuse cannot be easier. The process flow itself is then modeled in the usual fashion. Of course, there may be other master data sitting in an object repository than just org units and roles, for instance inputs and outputs, work instructions, application systems, risks, and so on. Let us consider the value proposition. BPM-X provides a professional BPM solution based upon Microsoft SharePoint and Visio. This leverages the already available Microsoft infrastructure and tools. BPM-X supports Microsoft SharePoint as collaboration platform. Architects govern the object repository and contributors manage the process documentation. Modeling is done with a consistent and configurable modeling language as opposed to do simple mapping. This will strongly improve the quality of process and other diagrams. A reuse via the object repository establishes professional modeling and sets the basis for analytic reporting and web-based publishing. Thank you for your time following our podcast about professional process modeling with Microsoft SharePoint and Microsoft Visio. I am Volker Altenberg from Transware, the manufacturer of BPM-X software.